After weeks of radio silence, Sergio Pérez has finally stepped back into the spotlight, this time with revelations that hint at seismic shifts beneath the surface of Formula One. Speaking candidly through Formula One's official channel, the seasoned Mexican driver offered more than just routine statements. He sparked a flurry of speculation by suggesting that a dramatic return to the grid in 2026 is not only possible but firmly on the table. While his recent performances behind the wheel of the RB20 have been widely criticized, some even labeling them subpar and uninspired, the narrative surrounding Perez appears to be shifting. The tides of opinion may be turning, as insiders, analysts, and fans alike begin to reassess what's really happening behind the scenes. And with this shift, a new question begins to dominate the conversation. What comes next for Checo? Red Bull may be rethinking its strategies, but Perez is already playing the long game. Rumors suggest that multiple teams are circling like hawks, eager to snap up a driver with his pedigree, leadership, and marketing pull. Among those reportedly courting him is none other than Cadillac, the American manufacturer that has made no secret of its desire to make a big splash in Formula One. But Cadillac isn't the only one dialing his number. Perez himself confirmed he's been in talks with several outfits, each one presenting a different vision for what his future could look like. The million-dollar question now becomes, which of these suitors is truly serious about landing the Mexican ace? And just as important, what does Perez want in return? Let's not sugarcoat it. For much of the 2024 season, Checo's name was routinely dragged through the mud. Critics declared him the weakest link in Red Bull's otherwise elite machine, pointing to a string of underwhelming showings in a car that many felt should have delivered far better results. The backlash was relentless. It was personal. And it painted a picture of a driver who had perhaps lost his edge. But then something happened, something that forced a collective pause in judgment. Enter Liam Lawson. The young Kiwi stepped into the car, and although expectations were sky-high, his performances, particularly in his most recent outings, were solid, yes, but not earth-shattering. The contrast raised eyebrows. Was Perez really the issue after all? Or was it simply that Red Bull's second seat, long regarded as a career graveyard, was cursed from the start? This so-called second-seat curse, an ominous shadow that has haunted a long list of talented drivers, now looms over Yuki Tsunoda. If he, too, fails to escape the gravitational pull of underperformance, Red Bull may find itself backed into a corner with very few viable alternatives for 2026. And at that point, who's to say Checo won't rise again, not as a backup, but as the redemption story nobody saw coming? When discussing his future, Perez was notably clear-headed and reflective. He wasn't making empty promises or bold declarations. Instead, he spoke of seeking a project that ignites something deeper: motivation, purpose, and belief. He emphasized that any new chapter must be built on mutual trust and shared ambition. A team that truly sees his worth, values his experience, and leverages his technical feedback could prove to be a perfect fit. He has, by his own account, given himself a 6-month window to carefully examine every opportunity laid before him. No rushed decisions. No emotional calls. Just a methodical evaluation of what kind of project will allow him to thrive again. There are some genuinely exciting proposals out there, Perez said from Abu Dhabi, hinting that the landscape is shifting quickly. Now that the season is underway, the phone has started ringing. More doors will open in the coming months. But make no mistake, he isn't chasing just any ride. For Perez, this isn't about survival or clinging on for one more season. This is about finding something meaningful. A seat that isn't just fast, but fulfilling. One that treats him as a cornerstone rather than a placeholder. That, in itself, feels like a veiled message to Red Bull. A subtle jab. A quiet confession that, perhaps, he never truly felt respected in the garage, neither as a race-winning driver nor as a strategic mind capable of shaping the direction of the team. And now, with new opportunities blossoming and momentum beginning to swing, Perez seems hell-bent on proving that Red Bull miscalculated. That they let go of a driver who still has the hunger, the fire, and the gravitas to shake up the grid. One of the most compelling new players in this unfolding drama is Cadillac, an audacious name entering F1 with a bold agenda. If they are seriously considering building their future around Perez, it's not merely because of his pace, it's about his marketability, his cultural resonance, and the depth of experience he brings. He's more than a driver. He's a brand, a bridge to Latin America, and a stabilizing force in a chaotic paddock. And Cadillac wouldn't be going at it alone. Longtime sponsors of Perez, such as Telmex, remain deeply committed to his career. Their continued support could be a game-changer, especially in attracting teams eager to pair talent with funding. Jimmy Morales, director of exterior Telmex and one of Checo's staunchest backers, recently broke his own silence. He mirrored Perez's tone and intent almost exactly, reinforcing that any deal must be built on competitive foundations and a long-term commitment to performance, not just marketing flash. "We're in conversations with everyone," Morales confirmed. "We're reviewing plans, evaluating whether there's room for someone like Checo, and most importantly, whether these projects make sense from a sporting and technical perspective." At the end of the day, this isn't just a story about one man's comeback. It's a broader narrative about legacy, reputation, and unfinished business. About a driver refusing to be forgotten. About the complex interplay between performance, politics, and perception in the brutal ecosystem of Formula One. And as the pieces begin to shift, one truth becomes crystal clear. Sergio Pérez might be down, but he's far from out. The fire is still burning, and 2026 might just be the year he lights up the grid once again. What we're witnessing here isn't merely the possibility of a driver returning to Formula One, it's the calculated unveiling of a carefully designed new phase in Sergio Pérez's career. This isn't just about hopping back into a race seat. No, this is a methodical, strategic repositioning by a veteran driver who's no longer content with being treated like a short-term fix. If Perez is coming back, it's not to fill a gap, it's to make a statement. A powerful one. One that reminds the entire motorsport world that experience, resilience, and leadership still matter in a sport obsessed with youth and raw pace. And if Red Bull at any point begins to reconsider the idea of bringing him back into their fold, they may first have to look in the mirror and accept a hard truth. They let him go without ever fully acknowledging what they had in their hands. They misread the value of a driver who brought calm under pressure, championship-level strategy awareness, and a professionalism that many others lack. His exit wasn't just a reshuffling, it might have been a strategic blunder. What truly matters now is not the noise from critics or the endless speculation from pundits. What matters is that Sergio Pérez feels aligned, mentally, emotionally, and professionally. That he is at peace, fully focused, and surrounded by a team and an atmosphere that not only values him but enhances him. Because in Formula One, raw speed is never enough. The difference between winning and fading into mediocrity often lies in mental clarity, deep motivation, and belief in the larger purpose. That is precisely what Checo and his inner circle are hunting for, a setup where he's not just tolerated, but empowered. Let's be clear, Perez has nothing left to prove. His resume speaks louder than any critic. Pole positions, Grand Prix wins, career-defining podiums. He's achieved more than most drivers even dare to imagine. If he does decide to climb back into a car in 2026, it won't be for validation. It'll be because the fire still burns. Because the hunger still exists. Because he's still in love with the fight. The only missing piece? A project that excites him, that makes him feel alive, that challenges him to be great again, not out of necessity, but by choice. Ironically, it took Liam Lawson's lackluster outings in Melbourne and Shanghai for people to begin reassessing what Checo actually brought to the table. One of those re-evaluating was none other than Mario Andretti. The American legend and figurehead of the emerging Andretti Cadillac F1 project appears to have experienced a shift in perception. After observing Lawson's struggles firsthand, Andretti was refreshingly honest when asked about Perez's candidacy for their 2026 driver lineup. "Yes, Sergio is absolutely in contention," he confirmed. No dancing around it. Just a blunt, truthful admission. In fact, he went even further. "Let me be straight with you," Andretti said. "Right now, Liam Lawson is making Checo look very good." A candid statement that sent a ripple through the paddock. And while he stopped short of confirming any deals, he was also transparent about the complex nature of driver negotiations in a volatile sport like F1. "I wish I could say more about our plans, but the timing just isn't right," he explained. "Too many moving parts. Until we lock things in, it's better to keep things quiet." This isn't about secrecy, it's about realism. It's about protecting a vision that's still under construction. Andretti Cadillac's ideal driver structure is beginning to take shape. Their ambition? To pair a seasoned, mentally tough veteran with a promising young talent. Someone who can guide, lead, and mentor, not just drive. In that light, Sergio Pérez becomes more than just a candidate, he becomes a frontrunner. Especially if they're looking for someone who can steady the ship while also fighting at the front when the car allows. And if Andretti is beginning to see that the internal issues at Red Bull may not have been Perez's fault, that's a seismic shift in perception. Yes, Perez failed to meet expectations at times in the RB20. But as the season wore on, more and more insiders began to wonder if the problem wasn't the driver, but the car. Especially for anyone who doesn't drive like Max Verstappen. There's a growing belief that the RB20 is fundamentally flawed when it comes to adapting to driving styles other than Verstappen's ultra-aggressive, brake-heavy approach. Interestingly, that's a theory Max himself has reportedly hinted at in private, frustrated by Red Bull's obsession with the second seat while neglecting to build a car that offers flexibility to different driving techniques. His silence on the matter publicly is telling, but insiders say he's no longer hiding his irritation behind closed doors. Meanwhile, Cadillac isn't putting all their eggs in one basket. They're running a wide net. Among those also being considered is Finnish driver Valtteri Bottas. The 10-time race winner, who played a critical role in securing multiple Constructors' Championships for Mercedes during their dominant run between 2017 and 2021, brings a wealth of experience. He understands what it means to be part of a well-oiled, championship-caliber machine. But since leaving Mercedes and joining Alfa Romeo, now known as Sauber, Bottas's performance has been in freefall. His impact has dwindled, and many now see his peak as firmly in the past. By contrast, Checo's form has actually improved since he joined Red Bull in 2021. While far from flawless, his racecraft, strategic nous, and ability to execute team orders under pressure have often been overlooked. His consistency may not be flashy, but in a sport where chaos is routine, Perez has often been the calm in the storm. And that puts him in a strong position at the negotiation table. For teams like Cadillac or any other new project thinking long-term, the smartest move might be to wait and watch how the 2025 season unfolds. Specifically, how Perez adapts to the RB21, the next evolution of Red Bull's machine. Early simulations and feedback suggest it's a slight step forward compared to its predecessor, but don't expect a miracle. F1's regulations remain tight, and radical jumps in performance are increasingly rare. Still, there's a possibility. The RB21 might just be balanced enough to give drivers not named Verstappen a fighting chance. And that's crucial. Because if Yuki Tsunoda, Red Bull's current experiment in the second seat, continues to falter, consistently missing out on Q3 in qualifying and failing to break into the top 10 on Sundays, the paddock may finally accept what some already suspect. The problem isn't the drivers. It's the damn car. In that scenario, Perez's stock will rise exponentially. He'll go from scapegoat to vindicated veteran. And Red Bull? They might have to face the music, that in their pursuit of the perfect number 2, they may have already had it, and let it walk. Let me know if you want this turned into a documentary-style YouTube script or trailer-style voiceover text. I'd be glad to. Max Verstappen, known across the paddock for his ruthless pursuit of perfection, has allegedly grown increasingly frustrated behind closed doors. According to whispers from within the Red Bull garage, the reigning world champion believes that too many engineering resources have been funneled into finding a replacement for Sergio Pérez, rather than focusing on improving the overall competitiveness and adaptability of the car itself. And it's at that very crossroads where this whole saga finds its poetic symmetry. If Checo can secure a seat in a car that genuinely suits his driving style, within a team that respects his experience and commits to him as more than a placeholder, then he might very well silence the critics and remind the entire F1 community exactly how much value he still brings to the table. Whether that next chapter unfolds under the banner of Cadillac, a revived mid-tier team ready to punch above its weight, or in the most dramatic twist of all, a sensational return to Red Bull, the decision will ultimately be his to make. He's not chasing validation anymore. There's nothing left to prove, and everything left to enjoy. In recent months, Sergio Pérez has consciously stepped away from the high-octane chaos of Formula One, not to retire, but to recalibrate. This pause in his racing career has not been a goodbye, but rather a much-needed reset. Speaking with transparency and emotional clarity, the Mexican driver admitted that watching the sport from a distance, observing how teams operate from the outside, has been a transformative experience. It has reignited his self-belief and provided a sharper sense of what he wants moving forward. His current journey mirrors the paths taken by other drivers who once exited Red Bull's orbit, like Pierre Gasly or Alex Albon, only to later find success, maturity, and renewed purpose in fresh environments. But there's an important distinction here. Perez was never a product of the Red Bull Junior program. He didn't rise through their ranks as a hand-picked prodigy. He entered their world as a proven competitor, only to be swallowed by what many now refer to as the second seat curse, a phenomenon that seems to haunt anyone who dares to partner with Max Verstappen. That curse appeared to reach its most intense form during Perez's final season with the team, when performance issues and internal tensions peaked. But in contrast to bitterness or resentment, Perez now speaks of his former team with calm detachment and genuine goodwill. "Honestly," he said in a recent interview, "stepping away has been refreshing. It gave me perspective. I've had a long journey in this sport, and when I look back, I know I squeezed everything I could out of every opportunity one had. That's something I'm really proud of." Yet beneath that peaceful exterior, there's still a smoldering intensity. And one can't help but wonder, what if Red Bull finds itself in yet another dilemma? Enter Daniel Cota, the latest talent to be brought into the Red Bull system. According to Helmut Marko, Cota has until the end of the 2025 season to prove that he can handle the immense pressure of Red Bull Racing's main lineup. If he falters, if his results fall short of the brutal expectations, then a reunion with Perez, however unlikely it may seem now, could become a realistic option. It may sound like a stretch at first glance, but the F1 world has always been one of shifting loyalties and fast-moving dynamics. And when you lay out the pieces, it starts to seem less far-fetched. Cota would need to underperform significantly, yes. But there are already hints of that potential fragility. His early statements suggest he's comfortable with how the RB21 handles, but it's important to remember that his entire experience with the car has come from simulator work. And as Perez pointed out rather bluntly in his recent comments, simulator feedback means nothing until the tires hit the tarmac. History backs him up. Just look at Liam Lawson. His simulator reports had initially created a storm of optimism, with many predicting a breakout talent ready to challenge the establishment. But once he stepped into a real race weekend, the cracks began to show. The disconnect between virtual potential and actual race day performance became evident. That's the trap of premature optimism. The pressure, the chaos, the split-second decision-making, none of it can be simulated. Despite the speculation and lingering uncertainty, Perez doesn't carry a grudge. He's been gracious when speaking about his time at Red Bull and the people he worked with. "I still have friends there," he said. "I spent 4 years alongside that team, and I truly want them to succeed. It's not easy for me to talk about my time there because it was honestly very difficult. Extracting the most from that car while building trust in it, it was a massive challenge." The same concerns I raised during my time there have now been echoed by others. That says a lot. And he hasn't hesitated to comment on Red Bull's latest rising star either. Yuki has pace, no doubt about that, he said. But in this environment, it takes more than just raw speed. You need the right mindset. You need composure under pressure. I believe Yuki has the mental strength to adapt, and I really hope he makes it work. Still, one critical question hangs in the air. What happens if he doesn't? If the Cota experiment falters, and Red Bull finds itself once again scrambling for answers, the prospect of calling up Perez, far from being absurd, could suddenly make a whole lot of sense. Meanwhile, across the Atlantic, Cadillac seems to be preparing its next move. According to insiders, the American manufacturer remains in active dialogue with Checo, exploring the possibility of bringing him on board as their headline driver for 2026. Such a move could be monumental. If Cadillac does land Perez, they won't just be acquiring a fast driver. They'd be securing a hardened competitor with 2 decades of F1 battle scars, someone who understands both the brutality and beauty of the sport. It would also give Perez the chance to turn the tables, to prove once and for all that Red Bull was wrong to dismiss him so easily. Could this be the foundation of a powerful redemption arc? One that reshapes his narrative from discarded sidekick to triumphant comeback king? We want to hear your thoughts. Is Checo gearing up to join Cadillac and disrupt the power dynamics of Formula One in 2026? Could Red Bull be on the verge of regretting the decision to part ways with one of the grid's most seasoned warriors? Let us know in the comments below. And once you do, don't forget to check out the next video now popping up on your screen.